Good evening. It is 7 o'clock. This is the meeting of the Mashpee Planning Board, Wednesday, December 1st, 2021, in the Wacoit Meeting Room, Mashpee Town Hall, 16 Great Neck Road North, Mashpee, Massachusetts, 02649. Broadcast live on Channel 18, streamed live on the Town of Mashpee website, www.mashpeema.gov/channel-18. Ask you all to please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First on the agenda, approval of the meeting minutes from November 17th.
Make a motion to approve the minutes?
I have a couple of comments before.
Oh, comments? All right.
Oh, go right ahead, Evan.
A couple items I think that should just be rectified. I thought I had marked them. Page 9, third paragraph, Ms. Wagon asked if this was a land court plan, not a land core plan.
Yep.
Oh, land court. Yeah, okay, yeah.
And then just one other comment I wanted to clarify that came from me on page, going backwards, on page 3, middle of the large paragraph. There are ongoing friendly 40B project. Habitat is a continued partner, but data will show a shortfall. It reads this way, but data will show a shortfall in the ability to produce needs. I think that's a little unclear. What I was, in my recollection, was trying to say was, data will show a shortfall in the town's ability to meet the needs.
The needs, meet the needs.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Anyone else? No? Good.
Okay, with those corrections,
I will make a motion to accept the amended minutes from November 17th.
I second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain.
Thank you. Public discussion, do we have anybody?
Anyone interested in public comment that's not relative to public hearings in the agenda? Nope.
Nope. All right. Let's move to committee reports. Cape Cod Commission?
I heard on the news that the Cape Cod Commission is doing a series of meetings with towns about low-lying roads. I don't know if, it's not all 15 towns on the Cape, so I don't think Mashpee made that list. But they're doing modeling. Cape Cod Commission is working with the Woods Hole Group. I think they were the people that came in and helped us
MVP.
with the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Report.
Correct.
And the Cape Cod Commission is doing, they're going to estimate out roads that are going to flood during storm events and maybe king tides, maybe non-storm events. And so they're doing that with 10 towns on the Cape and then going to push communities to fix at least 2 town roads. Just to try to get to people, people thinking about this kind of stuff. So I'm hoping the modeling will apply to Mashpee too. Anyways, that's a
Yeah. Did they say that if they identify they're going to help fund the issue, or we could just look at ourselves and find these problems?
yeah, it's like that unfunded mandate.
I mean, it's great to know, but we can.
That's what it probably is, Joe.
But they didn't want towns to pick state roads. So I'm assuming they thought the state should fix those
One would
roads.
hope that, yeah.
I seem that you brought up the MVP, but I seem to remember that was actually a section of the MVP, those low-lying roads. We didn't have a lot that really had a problem with it. Monomoskoye and some of those along the islands, but.
I found through the MVP process and in discussion with other stakeholders, particularly as it pertains to climate change impacts and to storm surge and sea level rise. When we look at the roads that we have, the low-lying roads in town, the vast majority are in private ownership, which makes implementation of any mitigation plan very challenging. So that's something we certainly need to consider, and I know that there are actors. UMass, for example, all of their campuses is certainly seeking a $20 million grant from the National Science Foundation to establish essentially like a think tank for climate change, and they've identified Mashpee as a potential partner in this. And my feedback to them was, you need to help us figure out how we can incentivize private property owners to do the either retreat, adaptation, or mitigation measures, because we can produce all the data we want. We can understand the problem, but if we don't have the ability to implement a plan due to private property rights, we're going to be at a significant disadvantage. So that's something I think we definitely need to be thinking about as we consider this particular problem.
I wonder if the insurance companies could say something about that, because they tell you have to take a tree down near your house or a bunch of stuff. I mean, maybe they could force private property owners either to pay higher insurance or fix the roads, especially down in on Shore Drive, that floods all the time.
Confidence, yeah.
I think the one thing we need to recognize is, and I think we do, it's a very complex public policy challenge that we'll need to begin thinking to unravel, because it's going to continue to be a problem, especially for those low-lying roads, low-lying infrastructure in general. And we need the ability to respond if possible. So it's a good project, good effort. And I received your email, by the way.
About,
The low-lying roads.
oh, okay, all right. So do you want me to follow up with the Cape Cod Commission, or do you want to see if the modeling's going to apply to Mashpee?
I'm happy to reach out to them,
Okay,
sure.
all right, good. That was my report for the Cape Cod Commission.
Okay, community preservation?
The committee meets tomorrow, I think it's 6 o'clock. I think it's a 6 o'clock start. It's either a 6 or a 6:30 o'clock start. It's open to the public, there's public comment, there's 8 applications. I have them here with me if anybody wants to look at them after the meeting.
Design review?
Our next meeting is next Tuesday, so I'll report back next meeting.
Plan review?
We have not met.
Environmental oversight did not meet. Historic District Commission?
Did not meet.
Military Civilian Advisory Council.
Yeah, there was a miscommunication. The Civilian Advisory Council did not meet.
Oh, okay.
Was the other council that you were referring to, they met, which was, I'm not a part of. So.
I'm so confused.
It is
They'll let me know when the next meeting is.
Okay.
They're hopefully gonna do it at the beginning of the year.
Okay, thank you, Jack.
Okay.
Let us know.
Yeah.
Evan, can you do your town planner report in 2 minutes, or
I
should
could
we?
probably do a piece of it.
No, just fast talk.
I'll just give you an update on LCP. I have a meeting with our consultants on Friday, so there's not a lot of new information since we've last discussed. I've just been working with my department heads to round out the stakeholder list. I did receive some responses from a few of you, so I appreciate that, relative to stakeholders and relative to existing studies, reports, and analyses. So we're building out those lists. I've received a number of responses from other department heads as well. So thank you for the people on this board who did reply. Thank you to my colleagues who responded as well. I'll be updating the Weston and Sampson on Friday with those lists, and I'll be thinking about how to make it even more robust if we've missed anything, but I don't think so. But we are thinking again about rolling out towards a launch in early 2022, as I had mentioned. Weston and Sampson did provide to me a number of external, like third-party digital online engagement platforms, which I've been going through. There are a lot of really good tools out there. I narrowed it down to, I wanted to pursue the potential for, I think it was 2 options. One was called Co-Urbanize, one was called, oh gosh. I'll have to jog my memory, but the main reason I selected them is because they have the ability, to roll out surveys and crunch the data. They allow the submission of targeted comments from the community. It allows us to send out messaging and calendars, and they have a map function, whereas people can actually make comments specifically on a map for a specific area. So I think these tools are digital tools at our fingertips right now. I think are really lacking in their ability to do any type of modern or substantial community engagement strategy. So I'm exploring what the funding and budgeting will be for those particular platforms, and I'll report back to you on what I think will work best in consideration of cost and their functionality. And we are also anticipating in the middle of December meeting with the consultants, Weston Sampson and the Cape Cod Commission, to go through what we have already discussed in terms of visioning workshops and our community engagement plan to make sure our approach is going to be consistent with the RPP and the Cape Cod Commission regulations. And just get some general feedback about how we're going to pursue kind of phase one of the LCP. And then additionally, I think it would be beneficial for the board and then also the members of the community to have Weston and Sampson come either in the middle of December or in early January so you can hear from them about what they've been doing. Because it's, again, mostly been data analysis, literature review, and I think we'll want to begin mapping out our engagement strategy. So we've outlined a rough framework, but it's a framework. So I think we can have a dialogue with them about what we're interested in terms of doing survey or surveys, how many workshops, where, when, how, what type of workshops, et cetera. All ensuring compliance and consistency with the commission regulations, the RPP, et cetera.
Good.
So it's not a very robust update today. I'll have more after our next meeting on Friday. But the involvement from the board and the town will ramp up in the very near future after Christmas.
Excellent.
So I'll report more on that later.
Do you think Ms. Wells could come here in person?
I think that's the intention. I think Caroline's been out a little bit. There are two consultants. It's Caroline Wells and
Okay.
a woman named Ashley Sweet. So it may be one or both.
Okay.
But I
Be
think
good.
they would likely be here in person, yes.
Great.
And if that's the desire of the board, I'll suggest that.
Yeah, much better. in
I'd
person.
like that, yeah.
Very good.
Okay, sorry I'm late. We're going to open the public hearing. Applicant Southworth Mashpee Properties LLC, continued from November 17th, 2021. Willow Circle lots addressed as 178 to 186 Quiniquisette Avenue, Assessors Map 69, blocks 23, 24, 25, and 26. The applicant proposes to modify the Willow Bend Country Club special permit by amending an approved cluster subdivision subject to the special permit by adding one additional lot. The total number of lots would increase from 5 to 6. Please.
Good evening. For the record, Jack McElhenney, attorney for Southworth Mashpee Properties, the owner of the Willow Bend Country Club project. As noted, we're here tonight seeking approval to modify an existing 5-lot subdivision, the road being named Willow Circle, and we're seeking to add a 6th lot. It is located on Quiniquisette Ave, just east of Orchard Street. And the subdivision was originally approved in 2010 under our special permit and also as a definitive plan. The plan was completed, endorsed, and recorded, but it was never built. The road has not been cleared. There's been no disturbance on the lot. The lot is 3.1 acres. At the time of the original approval, we were required by the state to put a conservation restriction on a roughly 17,000 square foot section of the property as potential habitat for the eastern box turtle. That was all fenced off, and we did the survey. Since that time, the eastern box turtle is no longer considered, I guess, threatened in this area, and the area is no longer mapped as potential habitat. So earlier this spring, we went back to the state. We went through the process, and they released the restriction. So we are essentially converting or asking to convert that 17,000 square foot area into the 6th lot. That didn't require any changes in the geometry of the road. It was essentially just moving lot lines. And so there are very minimal changes on the engineering front. All these lots, as with everything in Willow Bend, would be connected to our sewage treatment plant. The 5 lots have previously been approved, so they are included within our overall lot count. The 6th lot would add 1, which would bring us to a total of 274 out of our 287 cap at the moment. There were a number of conditions imposed in 2010, all of which, you know, we would agree to and be pleased to submit to. That included a 10-foot landscape buffer along the western boundary of the subdivision, which backs up to several residential lots that front on Orchard Road. We also had agreed to a 7.5-foot privacy fence along that line, which would again be maintained. And as you can see on the, there also was an agreement in 2010 that we would make a $1,000 contribution to the Mashpee Housing Authority per unit, which we're prepared to do. And there was a specific setback you can see on the plan on lots 1 and 2, that we maintain a minimum of 45 feet from the house that's located at 132 Orchard. It's the closest, you know, impacted residence, and we had agreed to do that. I believe the only waiver that had been requested originally was for the sidewalk, and again, we're not proposing to change anything there. This would be the same road that, and the same waiver request, I guess, as before. And, you know, Matt is here, he's conversed with the town's consulting engineer, but we're happy to answer any questions.
Just real quick, Evan, to advance that to the next, is it just the
If you use the
return?
clicker, use
Yeah,
the
I
clicker.
tried that. It wasn't,
Didn't change the batteries, Evan.
Evan very nicely, I asked if he would mind setting this up.
The
so-
arrow should be.
Technology so.
John,
good
can I
in
just
the
ask a quick
world.
question before we start?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Do you remember this?
Yeah.
Do you, were you here, Mary Ann? Do you? All right. So remember all the
Try it now.
Yep.
things you
Jack,
asked for?
wasn't there a house on this?
There's more than one house on there.
No, I mean, a house that was there, they tore it down.
There's an existing dwelling on the property now.
All right, they were gonna
Occupied.
donate that at one time or something.
Yep, that was my question, too.
Yeah.
If you go to the,
You can use that, Mike,
Yeah,
yeah, while they're
Tom,
figuring that out.
Yes, there's one duplex house unit on the property. It's used for employee housing. In 2010, we had agreed to donate to that town if it could be moved.
Yeah.
And we certainly would do that. It's obviously 10 years older. It's not
Might
in great
disintegrate,
shape,
yeah.
but given the cost of construction,
Yeah.
it's probably worth looking at. We'd be happy to do that.
it is currently occupied. I did
Yeah,
speak
so-
to one of the occupants, one of the
Maybe we could
renters
move it on
there,
a town lot or something. There was a duplex, you got 2 people coming into
when
it.
I went to look at the
Could you,
site.
yeah, could you talk to the Affordable Housing Committee?
Yeah, we'd be happy to. I think we did in the past, and, you know, my recollection was that they did have a site they thought it might work on at the time,
Yeah.
but the expense of moving it was, back
Okay.
in 2010, was prohibitive, but today with housing prices have gone up again, it may well be done. It's not a big structure, and it's not in great shape, but I'm
Jack,
gonna
can you use the
venture to
microphone?
say
Can't use
it's,
the microphone.
I'm gonna venture to say it's probably 40 to, probably 50 years old. I'd say the 70s.
Okay.
Don't hurt to look at it. You know.
As outlined by the town engineer, I have with fire department access, I see you have an island at the beginning. Has the turning radius been applied to that island for access coming in off of Quiniquisette?
Yes, it was, and I actually, in response to Mr. Pesci's comments, I actually printed out, I have an email here from March 2010 from then Deputy Chief Sheldon Hamlin, where he had reviewed it. The plan set, the only comments he had at the time was the road name, which at that point it was Willow Bend Circle, if you, some may remember, so it got renamed to Willow Circle because they just didn't want confusion. It was close to another road name. And then they just asked for the turning template for the tower truck, which we submitted, so I printed that email out and a copy of that turning template plan, and I'll submit that to Evan for the record.
I appreciate that. You know if they're gonna put a hydrant down the end of the street? On the island itself?
Yeah, we have
Was
a
that part
hydrant.
of Sheldon's,
There's a hydrant proposed at the cul-de-sac.
on the island?
Yep.
Okay.
We could click to the other slide.
I'll try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me run a map.
Yeah, I see something on there, but I couldn't find the legend that pointed that's what the hydrant was.
All right.
And I couldn't quite tell which one on Quiniquisette was the closest.
What sheet do you want to get to?
If they want to see the utility plan. we can
That
find it.
Jack, that radius is big enough for a truck to turn
Well, that's what
around.
because they have an island there, so I don't want to make sure that that turning radius
Yeah.
with that island in the end of the cul-de-sac.
So,
And
so that,
like, you have
would
the
you
form
guys,
for
would you
Sheldon,
guys
so-
hold that right there? So, well, the house we're talking about relocating is right there.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sheet 5?
So it's either going to have to be relocated
Or
or
demolished.
torn down.
Right.
Right.
Either way, it's not staying.
Correct.
Right.
And there's some other structures on the site that would need to be taken down as well.
Yeah, based on the fact that the previous deputy had signed off on that, I'm okay with
No?
my
Mr. Chairman,
questions.
can we open up the meeting for
Oh,
7:15?
yes, I'm sorry. Forgot about that. Let's suspend this public hearing and open up February.
Aren't they the same?
Yeah, they are.
So we don't suspend the 7:10, we just open up the 7:15.
We're going to open up the 7:15 public hearing at 7:22. Southwood Mashpee Properties LLC, continued from November 17, 2021.
Utility sheet?
178, 184 Quiniquisette Ave, map 69, blocks 23 through 26. Applicant proposes to modify an approved definitive plan by adding one additional lot to the previously approved 5-lot subdivision known as Willow Circle. Okay.
And I have one more thing to add.
Go ahead.
So the select board has adopted a similar name, street name policy. Have you guys checked with GIS to make sure that they have no problem with Willow Street? You know, I know it's different from Willow Bend, but just to make sure that you touch base with GIS, to make sure it's all right.
Yeah, we could do that. I believe that's how we came up with this at the
Okay.
time.
Yeah,
but
that had
it's
transpired
been
back then in
10 years, so
2010.
I'll-
Yeah, but now they have actually a town policy on it, so I want to make sure it's in compliance with that.
Okay. So, yeah, that would just have to be re-verified, but that we did go through that process back in 2010. I remember there was a lot, I was looking at the dialogue a lot back and forth, and then they approved the name of
Yep,
Willow
no
Circle.
problem.
So hopefully, because that subdivision was approved, I would think that Willow Circle was then put on the approved name list, but we'll confirm
Yep.
that, so. So, are there any other questions? I was just going
The
to,
hydrant's right there.
yeah.
Yeah, I see it now.
Okay, and for everyone else,
Off the
up right there.
I was
Oh,
just going to
okay.
run through Mr. Pesci's comments real quick, if you'd like me to. I believe they're fairly minor, and hopefully Ed can
I
back
would
me
agree.
up on that.
Yep, I would agree.
Item 1 talks about the fire department, the turning radii, we've just addressed that. No sidewalk, that was a waiver request when this was originally approved back in 2010, as Mr. McElhenney pointed out, so that waiver can be resubmitted as a request as needed. The planting schedule, I apologize for that, I saw there was 2 headings on the landscape tables, that I did reprint those, and I have them with me as well.
Thank you, sir.
It's just so the headings are legible.
I just wanted to have something, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, I just want to have something that I could inspect, because I knew it was there, I just didn't print right. It didn't translate right when he went to print it, or to move it from one software to another. And I just need to make sure it's something, if we're supposed to have 22 trees there, we have 22 trees listed.
Right.
That's, so you
Yep.
know what to inspect, that's all.
Yeah, I think the only thing that was missing that didn't print was just the heading, so there was no informational aspect, it was just a heading. So we're good on that, I believe. Erosion control plan can be added. I will add it to the existing information. We do call out some erosion control aspects. It basically can add the
Right.
stabilized construction entrance, some silt fence, and I'll add a construction sequence. There's a detail reference. The number needs to be changed because we did change it to a silt sack from what was required or shown 10 years ago, so we will update that reference. We can add some additional spot grades along the road, but I would, if we could, there's a road profile, Ed, on the plan, I'm sure you
Right.
saw that, and that calls out, that identifies the centerline grades
The
every 50
centerline
feet.
grades, correct.
So, but we can add some additional elevations, not a big deal.
Couple, three in between, centerline is there, I just worried about what the contractor's gonna do, as long as you tell them, I mean,
Yeah, between the profile and the cross sections and so forth. But yeah,
Cross-section
but we
should
can-
work,
We
but-
can add some additional spots, that's not a problem. Obviously, we provide the necessary seals and the final Mylars for both land surveyor, professional land surveyor, and professional engineer. And then the stormwater management, Ed and I spoke through this, I believe we're in agreement on it, that the two catch basins, because the drainage areas are so small, and actually the TSS removal that we ran, that's at 90%, I didn't even take any credit for the catch basins, actually, so even if they weren't catch basins there, the TSS removal is met. And I did submit that TSS calculation to Ed.
yep, at the time I wrote this, I
Ed.
didn't realize that he had sent it, we did talk about it, and he did right away, and I wondered why I didn't see it, because I missed it,
So.
missed the email.
So that's the extent of his comments, and I'm happy to answer any other questions that you might have.
Any comments from, oh, go ahead, Dennis.
I have a question. If a fire truck's coming down Orchard Road and it's gonna turn into this subdivision, that little island in the front,
Yep.
that you only have 12 feet on side, so the fire truck will probably have to run right over that, right?
No, we're no wider than 10 feet.
Oh,
Yeah, so we can go down. We already have subdivisions that have that type of size entrance, so I'm not worried about that distance. I was worried about making the actual turn
That's
in,
right.
and they've done the turning radius already, so.
On that circle now, it's only 20 feet, that's enough for the truck?
20 feet's what's required by
Okay.
the 527 CMR, so.
That's all I had.
Gotta keep Jack honest with this stuff.
No, but I always worry about that. I always worry about the fire.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
can I ask my questions before you open it up to the public?
Yep.
Okay, so thank you, Jack, for noting that this unit is going to be hooked up to your wastewater treatment facility. I think I read in somewhere that you have a large number of acres set aside for open space in Willow Bend. Can you can you remind me and the public how many acres you have?
I don't have those exact figures with me tonight.
Thought I
So
read
we
it.
have a total of over 440 acres, and I believe over two-thirds of it is open space.
Yeah, it's,
So under the last special permit modification, findings number 3, current open space is 237.9 acres. Does that sound right?
that's,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to note that there's a tremendous amount of open space in this
Correct.
development.
Correct.
Just because some people might say, oh, this 6th lot is taking away from the open space, but actually you already have a significant proportion of the
Yes.
property set aside.
Correct, yeah.
That was it.
Okay, thank you.
Any members of the public comment? Nope,
I'm all set.
okay.
So, which public hearing are we speaking on, the second one now, or?
You
Well, they're
open up
both.
both
They're
at the
both-
same
They're
time.
both open.
Yeah.
But I need a motion on them separately.
Yeah,
So,
Motion to close the public hearing.
yeah.
well, are we going to ask for them to provide us with the revised plans that address all of our engineers' comments? Or make that a condition of our vote? Because if we can't close the public hearing if we're going to ask them to bring back the plans.
I would suggest we make a condition of the vote.
Yes, please,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
I make a motion, we close the public hearing with a condition that they bring back all the stuff we asked for.
Yep, just, yep.
Should make that a condition of your approval, Dennis.
Is that
You-
approval?
Yeah, you can do it either way. You can close the public hearing except for the plans coming in,
Yeah, that's what I
or
just,
make it a condition of the approval.
Let's make it a condition.
the condition of approval.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
So that's for the both of them then, or?
you want to make a motion to close both public hearings?
Yeah, With the same motion, I take it.
That's fine.
I will second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
I got through that one.
Sorry, Dennis.
Nah, that's confusing, buddy, I get it.
All right, so we're covered on both of them?
Now you'll need a motion to act on the petition, so either to approve or not, with the requisite condition that Dennis had just noted. Because we'll need to accept this revised plans from Matt Eddy, and I'll need to prepare a draft decision for your review for the modification of the special permit.
So be.
Do we have a,
Again, that would be to approve the modification of the definitive plan for Willow Circle and approve the modification of the Willow Bend Country Club special permit to add one building lot on the subdivision known as Willow Circle on the condition that the applicant provide updated plans pursuant to the comments of the board.
So
Second.
be.
second?
Second.
Second.
Any discussion?
That was a mouthful, but no.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Evan.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Matt.
Thank
Have
you,
a good
gentlemen.
night. Thank you, Jack.
Jack, that'd be nice if you could see if you could do something with that. If you
Yeah,
could do
I'll
something with that
check in
house.
with the housing
It
authority.
may not be worth it, but
Have them see if they can come out again and take a look at it.
And Alan Isbitz, he's the chair of the Affordable Housing Committee.
Okay, yeah. I
He
think-
might, they might have different resources. I mean, Beth Wade is from Habitat. They were talking about maybe restructuring their program to do rehabilitation of existing units, maybe, so that, those are three possibilities if you could.
Okay,
I'll touch base with you on that,
yeah,
Jack.
we'll look into that.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, we have a preliminary plan. Applicant is Forestdale Road LLC, location 532 Main Street, Route 130, Assessors Map 26, Parcel 6. Request approval of preliminary subdivision plan showing a division of an 18 plus or minus parcel of vacant undeveloped land into 9 commercial industrial lots.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to disclose that I know Kieran Healy personally and professionally through my work for the town of Yarmouth, but I feel that I don't have any conflict of interest in sitting on this matter.
Thank you.
Hi, Kieran.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Kevin Corain, and I represent the LLC, which is the owner of the property, which is proposed to be subdivided into 9 commercial/industrial lots off of Route 130. With me, Karen Healy, this evening from BSC Group, who has prepared the engineering plans that you have before you. There really isn't a heck of a lot to discuss. I will say that we will be applying or including as part of any definitive plan submission a request that the dead-end length of road of 800 feet be waived. As you can see by looking at the plans that we submitted, it is not inconsistent with other roads that have been approved by the planning board off of Route 130. Next adjacent to us, Echo Road is even longer than the road that's being proposed as Surrey Drive. So because of the length of the required 200-foot of frontage, typically it does generate a larger and longer road, and then the cost of developing a road, particularly in a case such as this, and Nicoletta's Way probably as well, when you only have development on one side, you don't have the ability to spread the cost of development of that roadway over lots that would typically border a road on either side. And because of the width of the entire parcel, the long and narrow width of the parcel, we were able only to propose a road along the westerly side of that stretch of the property. So if the board has any question for myself or for Kieran, I'm more than happy to address it.
So, very similar to the last applicant. When I saw this application, right away, the Surrey Drive, we do already have a Surrey, similar sounding name, in New Seabury. I reached out to GIS because I had a challenge with that, and they also agreed that this would not be appropriate for a name, so I would think about a different name than Surrey, because we already have one in New Seabury. as far as the road itself, I couldn't tell the dimensions of the road, so is the width 20 feet?
22.
I couldn't find it on the plan anyway.
24.
It's 24? I just couldn't see it. And then I would only request, that as the town engineer pointed out, that we make sure that it applies. I know the water district relays the hydrants, but that the road layout does address that need for the hydrants going down to the end of the road, and the turning radiuses for the fire apparatus, because it looks like the end of the cul-de-sac looks very narrow, and I'm not sure if that ladder truck would make it. They may have already evaluated, but I didn't have anything here that told me the turning radiuses were evaluated. But other than that,
So, this comes onto a state road. You have permit to put the driveway there? Because I thought you had to be like 300 feet for each driveway.
Route 1, sorry,
You
this
got
road
nickel-
was officially a state road, but it was transferred back to the town for maintenance. The state does not maintain this road, even though it did have a route number. It's no longer
No,
maintained.
but I'm talking about a cut, to make a driveway to come out to,
I can, but it would be our permit would be to the town, not to
Oh.
the state.
okay.
Anything else, Dennis?
Nope, so it's up to the town to decide.
The lots along your development, will they have access to, is it Nicholas Road?
No,
So there's no cuts going onto that road, okay.
no.
Oh, yeah, so the area at this end, is that open space, or is that owned by somebody else?
No, it's all part of the same parcel.
And is that going to be conservation land?
It's not proposed to be conservation land at the present time.
You're just not putting the
just not
road
that-
all the way down?
That's correct. No decision is made what, if anything, to do with that property.
So I think you worked on Echo Road. Did you?
I don't think so.
No. So why did Echo Road have to provide open space?
You mean Evergreen Circle?
you mean Evergreen, yeah, Evergreen did.
Evergreen Circle was a DRI.
Okay, it was big enough, okay. And this doesn't qualify as a DRI because
It's not 10 lots.
it's not 10 lots?
Anybody else?
No, I'm thinking, I'm not done yet. So does that mean you won't put 10 lots?
Well, there's no plan currently to put 10 lots. Currently, we're proposing a 9-lot subdivision, as you see, on the plan. If we had proposed 10 lots, then as Evan has indicated, we would have come under the jurisdiction of the commission. But
I think Mary's leaning that way. So if a 9-lot subdivision goes in, down the road, because you do have that space, and you decide you want to come back before the board and extend it to 10 lots, does it something become a DRI, or is it different then?
No, I've posed this question before to the Cape Cod Commission. Ultimately, the way they view, if you had a plan before you and that a note on that plan said, future phase 2, whereas an additional subdivision would occur, well, then we would need to take that information and refer it accordingly to the Cape Cod Commission. There's no such intention that we can discern by way of the submission here to make any assumption about what they may or may not do with that future parcel. So it would not be a mandatory referral to the commission.
We could send it, though.
You can make discretionary referrals
We
to the
can-
commission.
So would you be able to have access off of a Schumett Road to this back land?
I'm not sure. It's possible. I'm not sure what the width of that area is off of a
And what's the
Schuman.
buffer to the base back there? How far does that come off the fence? I don't
45,
think it get there,
48.
could they?
So I'm concerned about segregation, that you'll later on develop this back piece, but avoid a Cape Cod Commission review of 10 lots because you're splitting the project up.
Well, the fact of the matter is, the only thing that's before the planning board hopefully is ultimately a definitive plan is a 9-lot subdivision. If that occurs and something comes on down the road, as you've indicated, that you would have the discretion to refer that at that time to the commission if you chose to do so. But that is not part of what's before the board this evening as a preliminary, and it's not our intent at the present time to bring it back as a definitive with any further subdivision along that road.
So I'm going to ask Evan to confirm your your line of thought. So did you hear him?
I did generally hear it. I've had this conversation with the former chief regulatory officer before, generally with regard to the normal trigger we generally see for DRIs, and it's, we see the 9,999 square foot buildings. And a building, assuming they have the dimensional latitude on a lot to expand, you could easily foresee a building that's just shy of 10,000 square feet for a change of use or some other market change, whereas they want to expand that.
Yeah.
It's not an unreasonable assumption, but it's not something that would necessitate a mandatory referral. I would apply that same logic to the subdivision here. We as a board, you as a board, can only review the plans that the petitioner has submitted. What I do want to make clear, though, this does not trigger a mandatory referral.
Right.
Right.
But I want to just make clear also that you do have the discretion, you can make a discretionary referral to the commission and they can review their jurisdictional bounds. I think the same logic as I just laid out with regard to the size of the building and any potential future phases are based in assumptions. And you might be able to, if you're concerned about that type of segmentation, you could consider, by way of the definitive and your approval, a condition to mitigate such a potential future action.
So we wouldn't do it at this stage, we'd do it at the definitive.
Again, this is a preliminary plan submission. An approval of the preliminary plan does not grant an approval of the subdivision. They'll need to prepare the definitive plan filing, whereas if a referral to be made, it would occur at that time.
Okay.
Yeah, Mary, I see exactly where you're going with this, but
Yeah.
I think, I get it, but this is not,
But just to clarify what Mary's asking, so when they come in with the definitive plan, can we make that as condition of approval, that if it does modify down the road, it could be recommended, or?
Let's get some research done on
Yeah.
that in time.
I think what I would also, is just looking at the dimensional, the street. The R zoning and your subdivision street design standard regulations limit the length of this roadway to 800 feet. You can grant a waiver, a specific waiver. That's specific to dead-end streets. So Mary's question relative to access to Ashumet is pertinent, but your condition in the waiver could be specific to only allow that dead-end street up to a certain point, whereas no additional frontage would be gained.
I have one more comment or question, and it's kind of to Dennis. Dennis, you usually, when we have like a road on Route 130, you usually talk about line of sight and
Yeah.
how you like it wide at that. What do you usually want to see at the end?
I'm scared there's gonna be 3 driveways really close together. It'd be nice if they could come down Nicholas Way, and they must have an easement or something, that they could come in like from one driveway.
That's private property, though, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I wondered,
I
We
know it's
explored-
private property, but
It's my understanding that that option was explored with the owners of Nicoletta's Way.
I remember, yeah,
And the proposed cost to seek permission to use that
it was too much.
was prohibitive.
Yeah.
So we're entitled to access
Yep.
this
Oh,
property,
all right.
no matter what its distance is between the various roads. Certainly, if we could have used Nicoletta's Way, if the owners of Nicoletta's Way had allowed us to do that, it would have been an option that we certainly would have followed up on, rather than to have to construct.
I'm just thinking, whatever's gonna be developed, be probably a lot of trucks. And they're coming out of there, and trucks coming out of Nicholas Way. It looks dangerous to me, but you have the right to,
It's really not inconsistent with a lot of the development
No,
that
I know.
has already occurred along Route
I
130.
disagree.
Well, that's sometimes why we.
That's my concern.
So this entranceway, Ed, can you recommend some best practices there so people can get in and out? People go, right, so we've got another curb cut coming in, 130, if they can, they go fast.
There are 2 things to look at. Number 1 is safe site distance. You can ask them to comment on that on the definitive.
Okay.
So Kieran, I wouldn't think that's any issue you could do. And that is, generally, when I stand at the intersection, the proposed intersection, do I see lots of trees that obstruct the view for safe turning or safe stopping when someone coming on Route 130 would see you turn It's both. It's not just seeing as you exit, but also you're on Route 130 traveling at above the speed limit, let's say, just realistically, right? And then all of a sudden, somebody pulls out, you're gonna have safe stopping sight there
Okay.
as well. So those two things I would look at, but I did mention that there was one minor issue with the design, and that is the entrance radius on one side of the north side was not in accordance with your subdivision rules. It may work as designed, I just brought it to their attention to look at. I don't see any reason why they couldn't use 35 feet instead of what, I think it was 28, Kieran? So I don't see why they wouldn't want to do that, but that would help to answer your question for access.
I think that would be a good idea, to go to 35 feet.
And it would also help for fire access as well.
Yeah.
And I want the, you know, so I'd want them to do a turning template for the fire truck, I assume the ladder truck, Jack?
Yeah, that's the biggest turning radius issue I
Right.
have.
So, do a turning template.
Mary may know this answer better
plan.
too, isn't that right, the entrance to this development, proposed development, is the termination of the sidewalk, is it not? Right there?
Nope.
No.
Doesn't the sidewalk just end after Nicoletta's?
The easement runs across, the sidewalk easement runs across the whole frontage of this parcel. It's
Oh,
about
it
20
does,
feet
all the way.
recessed, and there's a crosswalk that runs across the street, and the sidewalk continues on the other side of Route
Because I
130.
will say, where that sidewalk makes that turn, the line of sight for traffic is tough there, because, you know, they're good past it, but when they come off that sidewalk there, they're coming out of bushes, and so I guess line of sight would be something we'd have to look at down the road too.
Maybe it'd be
And-
nice if we could put a sign of trucks entering and, you know, on 130 on both sides, north and south.
Just
No.
I live right near there, and I just find that the wider those entranceways in and
The
out
better.
are, the more value your lots have. You might lose some land up there, but it really makes a difference. And some of these places, and I hope I'm right, I think that first lot, doesn't that have incentive zoning? Did that go?
Incentive zoning, the first front lots are C3 limited commercial, whereas the rear portion of the subdivision would be industrial.
Okay.
It's not incentive, but it is alternative to
We-
with the
we-
industrial lots.
We did some bump up of that zoning,
There's some flexibility on those front lots for different types of uses, yes.
like, 'cause you could have like a restaurant there.
Right.
Yes, you could, as long as it's screened from the adjacent residential district, yes.
And can you put a dance studio in these rear lots?
Well, I think you could, but I'd have to refer to the zoning.
So just what I'm saying is that 35-foot entranceway will just, it ends up boosting the value of whatever goes in that area.
I'd also
That's
point
all.
out that a portion of this lot to the rear is residentially zoned,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct,
so that's something else to keep in mind.
yes.
Is that on this map?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, all
The
of them.
dash line, thank you.
Across three different
One
zones.
developer was gonna put houses down there at one time.
Yeah, there was a 40B proposed on this site a number of
Something
years ago.
happened, you know, I forget.
Oh, yeah, and it didn't get the funding because of the airport. It was in the crash zone.
Yes, I just wanted to note, this is, I wrote down two comments. One was just relative to the waiver request. It is within the complete discretion of the planning board to grant that waiver or not, so long as the greater length, greater than 800 feet, is desirable due to topography or other conditions. That's completely within your discretion to consider. The only other thing I would note, and maybe this is pertinent to the, widening of an apron onto 130, but for any subdivision, commercial, industrial, residential, that produces 8 units or more, the postmaster is going to require a cluster box unit. I would suggest, we did amend the subdivision regulations to note this, but you'll want to show on the plan its location, but the planning board has no discretion or authority over the placement of that mailbox. You'll want to show the postmaster your plan, and they're going to tell you where to place it. And on the definitive filing, you're going to want to show, either by striping or some other mechanism, appropriate turn-off for vehicles to access those mailboxes.
If I could, on page 3, we do have a turnout specifically for that.
Thank you, Karen.
It's at station 100, basically 100 feet in from Route 130.
Sorry, I missed that. Thank you.
Well, I saw that, but I didn't know what it was.
And did the postmaster approve that location?
I'm not sure if it has been submitted to the postmaster or not.
I would just recommend touching base with the local postmaster.
And what we did is we created a space wide enough to fit a vehicle into it, so.
Perfect.
It would be out of the travel lane.
Did you see it?
The only reason I make
see
the.
it on page 3.
The only reason I make the suggestion is because other subdivisions, I mean, this was a recent rule change by the post office, whereas this
Oh my-
8-lot threshold that occurred, and the new property owners were unable to get their mail delivered because someone was responsible for, they wouldn't deliver to the individual buildings. So it's to the benefit of future property owners to make sure that's rectified at the definitive filing.
I have a question for Jack.
Yes.
So when you have a road that's longer than 800 feet, do the buildings after 800 feet have like special sprinkling
No,
regulations?
so hydrants are laid out at 500-foot increments.
Okay,
So anything beyond 500, there'd be another, so what I would suspect is the water district would put 2 hydrants, one halfway down and another one down the end of the
Okay.
cul-de-sac.
all right.
Because they're gonna have to run water anyway, so they would tie the hydrants to it. That's what I suspect they would do.
So just to confirm that, we had we had finished the hydrants at 15, station 15. That was the last one we were proposing. We had proposed 3 at 500-foot intervals. Would it be, the road ends at station 18, 300 feet further on. Would it make more sense to space them out a little bit more so we get that one at the end of the cul-de-sac?
You can't space them out more than 500 feet.
I'm sorry?
You can't space them more than 500 feet.
So
Just because the way we lay the LDH, the configuration, it's 500 feet's the max. You can always shorten the distance, but it's 500 feet. 800 feet, you're gonna have probably one, I think what plays a role in this, and Ed may know this, is wherever the hydrant is out on 130. If there's one that, right near the entrance, then you lay that in, so you'd have 500 foot and then one other. So, but if there isn't one nearby that entrance, you have to think about that layout. So you may have to install a hydrant near the front of the development as well. So the water district plays the big role in that. They set our hydrants, but they'll consult with us, and I definitely work with you on that. But yeah, 500 feet's the maximum distance.
There is one right in front of the property on Route 130.
Yes, that's the best situation right there.
So you've got one at the entrance, and then you got 2 on the road.
Yeah,
we
one
got-
It's almost in the way of your road, but you made it so it wasn't.
Does that sound right, Ed?
Yes, yes, it is. Yeah, when you have to pull more than 300 feet of hose in any direction from the hydrant, your fire department start to get nervous, so.
Well, you think each length of LDH weighs 1,000 pounds. So you got 3 lengths, that's 3,000 pounds. And so you just keep adding to that.
So it's one of those things that 500-foot
Learn
spacing.
something every day, okay?
I guess for the sake of an extra hydrant structure, you should probably reduce the spacing, Kedron, in my opinion, just so you get one at the end, the way you want. That's one way to look at it.
The more the better.
I think when you come in with the definitive plan, if we see any, or if Ed will see it before me, if there's any issues at all, and you can always call my office and we can talk on the side and make sure that we're on the same page.
I would recommend you bring the draft plan, Kieran, you or Brian, bring it to Jack's office.
You can
go over
email it
with
to
him.
me. I'll give you my card before
Yeah,
you go.
and then you can go over it, and then when you get his comments, and he is satisfied with your turning templates, hydrant spacing, access, and so on, then you can file your definitive plan to the rest of, to the board.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No. Good.
Do we vote to
Do we
approve?
vote?
If you're prepared to make a motion to vote to approve, you can do that, and the applicant can move on to a definitive plan filing.
Oh, can I ask a question first? Are we granting the waiver, or is it 2 separate votes here?
I think you'll want to grant the waiver upon the filing of the definitive plan, but you could indicate your intention to the applicant at this juncture.
No, I don't have a problem with the.
I don't either.
So-
No problem.
Yeah, I would suggest upon the definitive plan filing, though, that waiver be specific with regard to an actual lineal footage of, how much are you waiving, how much additional road length are you granting?
Well, I think the way you worded it earlier is because topography could play a role in how that ends. It may not be perfectly
But
800, so.
All of this can be rectified by way of the definitive plan filing.
Okay.
Does
So do we have a
our
motion?
engineer have any conditions he wants to see at
Nope,
this time? Okay.
it's fairly flat, you have a nice wide road, 22 feet, 24 feet. Everything looks pretty much in order. There's a sidewalk shown on one side. Pretty much, didn't see any major problem, other than the length, but I didn't see that as an issue either.
Yeah.
And I would ask, is the board comfortable if Kieran and the engineer and surveyors connect with Ed individually on any comments following this meetings.
Sure.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that goes for me as well, if there are any questions moving forward.
So we need a motion.
Jack, why don't you make more? Go ahead, Jack.
I make a motion that we approve the proposed plan,
The preliminary plan.
preliminary plan.
Do we have a second?
Preliminary subdivision plan.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can you pass that to him?
Thank you very much.
gentlemen.
My email address is on the card, you can just, and my phone number.
Thank you very
Brian,
much.
I was gonna email you the comments too, but I only have Brian's email, I didn't have yours.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
All right, new business.
What are we at?
Vote to set public hearing date for an application made by Lisciotti Development Corporation to construct a retail paint store to be located at 413 Nathan Ellis Highway, map 72, parcel 56A. And, okay, pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 11, the Mashpee Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, January 5th at 7:20 in the Wacoit Meeting Room at the Mashpee Town Hall, 16 Great Neck Road North, to consider an application made by Lisciotti Development Corporation requesting a special permit to construct and operate a retail paint store at a vacant property addressed as 431 Nathan Ellis Highway, Mashpee, Massachusetts, 02649, Assessors Map 72, Parcel 56A, owned by Robert Lebowall Family Trust. The subject lot is located in the C2 Commercial Zoning District and is partially located within the Groundwater Protection District, necessitating Planning Board review. This petition is made pursuant to the Mashpee zoning bylaws, sections 174-31 and 8, 174-25E1, 174-24C, 174-37, 174-82-1, 174-82-4, 174-41M, 174-31N14.
Bingo.
We're here all night, folks. We're here all night.
He's been waiting all day.
Yeah.
So what do we have on January 5th? We have a 7:10?
You have 710, it is just a referral to the Cape Cod Commission for the retail grocery at 647 Falmouth Road.
Yeah.
If, just for a little bit of background on this petition, you recall at the most recent South Cape Village modification, a Sherwin-Williams paint store was originally proposed, and they withdrew or did not proceed with that lease. They are pursuing development of a store on this site, which is the former Cherry Stone site. And again, I just want to be clear that generally the buildings of this size and scale and the use don't fall under the purview of the planning board, but this lot is bisected almost exactly in half by the groundwater protection district, which gives you the permit granting authority for the commercial uses identified in the bylaw if it's in the groundwater protection district. So that's why you are seeing this petition and not the zoning board of appeals.
Thank you.
Do you know what square footage
Of the lot,
of the paint store?
it's like 4,000 square
Oh,
feet,
okay.
between 4 and 5.
That's not a bad.
Still, there'll be no problem with trucks like there was.
It
for the
actually fits
dollars.
there.
Falmouth and 28.
The Cherry Stones lot is unique because there's a paper road that's still in existence along the westerly portion of the parcel, and it really makes, with the 75-foot setback from 151, the 75-foot setback from the residential district to the rear of the property, really constricts what you can do there. You can recall a Dollar Tree was
Dollar
proposed
Tree.
there, and it needed something like 10 variances to happen, and it was just a disaster. Which did not occur, and that was not a good fit for this particular parcel. A 4,000 square foot building with limited retail activity does fit. It fits the site, which is
Yeah, well, we'll
which
get
is
there
good.
when we get there.
So we'll see where that goes. And again, you're seeing this because of its location in the groundwater protection district.
Got it.
So I make a motion to set the public hearing for January 5th, 2022,
Oh, thank you.
7:20 PM.
That's an annual error.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good.
Aye.
Okay, next up was the Town of Falmouth Planning Board.
Oh, you missed
Nope, you
one.
missed one.
This one.
Discussion of the motel conversion, zoning bylaw for seasonal workforce housing.
Oh, right. Sorry,
A little bit of background on this also. I had meant to mention this to the board at our affordable housing discussion at our last meeting, and I forgot. But the reason that this has come about, because Willow Bend's representatives have indicated to me their interest in purchasing the Santuit Inn, just there on the Catuit line, on, I guess it's the easterly portion of Route 28, just bordering Barnstable.
Yes.
For the purposes of housing their seasonal workforce. So at this juncture, they're not proposing any alterations to the building, and, but they wouldn't, it's been indicated to me, and Jack McElhenney has stayed here to speak on this issue, about the potential for expanding that facility to house more of the workers, to create common spaces, et cetera, et cetera. I don't have a lot of details yet, but I do think if there is an opportunity in the future to expand, to create more of a living space as opposed to something so temporary as a smaller motel for the workforce, it would probably require some sort of zoning change. So I wanted to bring this to your attention, if the chair is willing to allow Willow Bend to speak on their intentions for the property so that we can begin thinking about potential solutions within the zoning bylaw to accommodate such a use. I would say it's, just as our discussion indicated last time, there's certainly a massive need for our year-round workforce, but we can't deny that they are significant housing challenges for our seasonal workforce, which I'm sure Willow Bend could attest to, but it's a solution they've proposed, and I think a solution we could support, but if a zoning solution is necessary for the future, I wanted to have that conversation with the board as early as possible. So.
Jack, you want to?
You're gonna have to talk down there, Jack, the microphone.
We can pick it up, whatever,
Talk
detach.
right into that mic, because I know people at home are going to
Okay.
want to hear what you have to say.
Well, it was, as Evan alluded to, we have, like a lot of businesses, a real issue with housing our seasonal help. We have typically 100 or so seasonal employees, and we need or could use housing for about 70 of those. At this time, we own several small houses around Mashpee. We have down around the property, and then we have like a 13 unit or 13-room boarding house over on C Street in Hyannis. This property, the Santuit Inn, came on the market. It's obviously a very good fit for us because it is physically contiguous to our property. A lot of these employees are, many are college students, many are international, and they're just here. They don't all have cars or vehicles, so being that close would be a big plus. As Evan said, we don't have any immediate plans to do anything with the property. We're going to operate it continually as it is. But down the road, I think we would be interested in starting a dialogue with the planning board and the other powers to be about potentially expanding that because, there is more need either for us or for other employers in the area. We've already had inquiries from a couple other employers saying, if you've got any extra rooms, I'm in. So, it's clearly a need in Mashpee. There isn't any specific bylaw provision, as I discussed with Evan at the moment. And, so we would just like to participate and be a part of that dialogue if that's something that the planning board, would entertain going forward.
Yeah,
I think it's a great idea.
yeah. How many, I've been there before, but about how many units are there now as it stands?
There are 21 rooms, I believe, that are rented, and I think there's one apartment, which is slightly bigger.
We could always put at least two
Yeah,
people in
but it
there.
would be nice to have like a common area for cooking or something like that. But we, as I said, we don't have any plans to change anything for this summer, but, going forward, if possible.
Do you anticipate occupying it this summer, as is?
Yes, yeah, probably.
There is a common area right now, but I'm not sure if it meets code, but I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a room in the back that I,
That's got a kitchen and what have you.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it needs-
you've
needs
probably.
some significant upgrades. I think.
Yeah, no, we know that. It does need a lot of work, and we're doing that over the winter, hopefully, but,
Great idea.
It's a great solution.
Yeah.
Is the motel on a septic system right now, Jack?
it is on a septic system, and that's, one thing, we could look at would be connecting it to our plant if we did expand it, and I think board's aware, there's a fairly active conversation ongoing with the sewer commission about, having them take over the Willow Bend plant as part of Phase 2 of the town's operation. There's a lot of excess capacity at that plant. Right now, I think it operates, don't quote me on this, but on the 4th of July weekend or something, we might hit 75 or 80,000 gallons per day. It has a physical capacity of 130,000, gallons per day. Our project is pretty much built out, and obviously those are peak flows. So there, it clearly would make sense for the town, given the challenges we all face here, to tap that additional capacity.
Yep.
And there also were discussions about using some of the golf course fairways as leaching areas.
yeah.
And, it's been 4 or 5 years since we had that discussion, but it seems like a good fit. There's a technology that allows you to discharge,
Absolutely.
into the growing zone for the turf, so that some of that nitrate, residual nitrate after the treatment is still being absorbed. So I know everyone within the Willow Bend community views it as a win-win if we could do that. Frankly, from the homeowner's point of view, it's largely considered a headache, not because there are problems with it, but they just don't want the responsibility for, running a wastewater plant and having to budget for what happens down the road when we need to rebuild it, and how much should we charge for the reserve fund, et cetera, so.
And then we make your gas greener.
Yes, yeah, so.
And save on fertilizer.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask him some questions? Okay. So, is there any capacity on this property to add units?
Yes, we haven't looked at it
Yeah.
yet, but if you're familiar with the property, there's a good chunk of land. I want to say it's better, the lot itself is 2 acres, and between the barn and, Polar Cave, that little shopping square, and the motel, I think, I would guess is a 3/4 of an acre piece there, a half-acre piece there, so that clearly would be an opportunity to expand. But again, we have no plans or budget at the moment to do that, but thinking ahead, it probably would make sense to consolidate it. It is, as I said, a good location because it's so proximate, and there also aren't any residential, neighbors, there are a couple, but it's,
So I'd like to refer you, I work for the town of Yarmouth.
Yeah.
I'd like to refer you to their zoning bylaw. They do have provisions for long-term stays at motels. They
Yeah.
have provisions of on-site employee housing.
right,
They have definitions of tenancy
right.
that have all passed the AG's office. Not a lot of towns have zoning bylaws that deal with these issues, but Yarmouth got ours passed by the AG, so just,
Yeah.
you might want to look at
I
that.
did look at it.
Okay, good.
I'm aware of that, and, that seems like a good model, so we just want to, keep people abreast of our
Yeah.
plans and participate in the process going forward.
Thank you.
Great.
I think it's a good idea.
I think it's a great idea.
Great idea.
Thanks
Yep.
for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you very much.
Bye, Jack.
Okay, Falmouth Planning Board waiver request, failure to notice abutting town planning boards of zoning article public hearings. And there's a letter in your packet from the Falmouth Town Planner. Evan?
As you're all probably aware, the zoning act requires planning boards to hold public hearings on any proposed zoning articles to go before their town meetings and to notify the abutting towns' planning boards of those public hearings. Falmouth failed to notice Mashpee of their public hearing, and they're requesting that request be waived so that the Attorney General can approve their zoning bylaws that did pass muster at their own town meetings. So if you grant the waiver, I would simply draft a letter myself and indicate to Falmouth your vote.
Any concerns,
No.
thoughts, comments?
I make a motion that we grant the waiver of requiring the notice of the planning board hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Does this apply to all or just this one instance?
If you follow your statutory requirements before town meeting, this is not a requirement. It happens, though. I've made the mistake before, and the Attorney General will essentially respond and say, please have your neighboring towns waive it, or the town clerk will post, has to make like a entire page posting in the newspaper, giving people the opportunity to attest your town meeting's vote. So this is just one remedy.
So this was that affordable housing zoning bylaw that I mentioned when we met with the housing
Yeah, Evan has
committee.
the,
It's all attached. Nice.
So pull it out and study it.
well, Evan has, as the professional planner in the room, I'd love your take on the, what's your thoughts on the bylaw?
Well, I think it's a general improvement. It provides a pathway it adds a tool to Falmouth's toolbox for which to incentivize private investment in affordable housing. I guess if I were to have any critique of this, because it's generally consistent, I think, with a lot of what we've discussed at a board level. Identify sites and locations in areas that are currently crippled by existing zoning regulations and their ability to produce any housing in their commercial districts, and if it does exist, their ability to produce SHI-eligible affordable units. I think the shortfall of this bylaw isn't necessarily one of its effectiveness in producing affordable housing, but one of aesthetic and architectural consideration. What I always worry about and caution against when you do bylaws of this nature is to steer away from past patterns of developments, whereas you get a staccato of development patterns, not necessarily any consideration of neighborhood context. So if we were to pursue something similar, it would be my recommendation, I think, at that time, to develop something that's more considerate of context. And I'll say it again, this would be a phenomenal opportunity to reconsider form-based code.
Didn't they have that? Wasn't that part of their exercise?
They did attempt. So this is my blunt critique, not even a critique. I think that they did pursue form-based code. I think this is a political compromise. And I think it takes something that could be potentially great and makes it mediocre.
Which is generally what you get.
And that's my personal opinion. I'll make that clear. But I think this is a framework for which we can have. Mary brought this up at our last meeting. There are areas in town ripe for redevelopment. These are frameworks.
You stated that in your build-out analysis.
I did. These are frameworks that we should be considering.
I agree.
I love it. I love it. I'm very satisfied with the progression of this conversation. I would say is if we were to pursue a similar framework, especially as we get through the visioning workshops and we get through a comprehensive plan, is that I would not want to ignore the potential for form-based code and form-based regulation on a smaller scale. Because it is my opinion that perpetuating that staccato, isolated lot line to lot line development pattern is just going to perpetuate many of the issues that expose themselves by way of more conventional zoning practice. So I would say start here, but definitely consider a form-based approach,
Yeah,
is all I would say.
thank you.
This kind of reminds me of something. Remember, you know how we have the architectural and site design standards in the bylaw,
In our zoning bylaw?
in our zoning bylaw
Yeah.
for the front lots on Route 130?
Yes.
And they found it difficult to deal with them
Yes.
because it's almost like half of them really didn't apply. Should we remove those sections from the zoning bylaw?
Or just reassess them. I think you understand the intention of what was being accomplished with that C3 zoning district. But as we look at redevelopment in particular, you're looking at a scale that goes beyond a singular lot. So you want to develop a framework for development that is considerate of that entire context. And that's what I'm saying is missing from this particular bylaw. It does grant their planning board some discretion in determining dimensional criteria, et cetera, which we do in our current bylaw. But if you take a form-based approach, then you regulate that building form, you create a predictable pattern of development for a whole district.
Right.
And that's what I think, if we were to pursue this, I would recommend considering.
No, I know, I'm just saying that I think they had a problem reporting to us that they met with the architectural and site design standards that we have in our zoning bylaw.
Who's they?
Yeah.
The two, it's the Cape Cod Coffee and the liquor store
Best Buy
that's
Beverage.
going in.
Oh,
okay.
Best Buy
Okay.
Beverage, and we kind of had to go, oh, yeah, okay, you're fine.
There are challenges, particularly on the lots with frontage on two streets, because you have big setbacks on either side. And that's a good example, actually, because there's broad discretion for the board to do what you determine is appropriate for each site. But it doesn't give consideration to what happens everywhere around each of those sites, so that when you end up getting at a neighborhood scale is disjointed development.
Yep.
That's, I think, one of the primary critiques of conventional zoning itself, is that
It's site-specific.
it's an assessment and evaluation of performance on a singular site,
Right.
and not a consideration of an entire neighborhood context.
So we're thinking of
Well said.
creating another lot that would have to comply with that piece of the zoning bylaw that didn't really work out that well. I'm just thinking, can we put that on the list to look at for a zoning modification?
Sure.
I'm not talking about form-based code or whether I like it or not. I'm
Right.
just saying
But
that
that would help that lot.
it just reminded me that one of the engineers had a very hard time. There was no way that they could comply with it, and we had to, but we didn't have anything in there that said that, how specifically we would waive it. So we just kind of let it go, but,
I recall that. Yeah, there are the standards for development in C3 districts. All of the lots in the C3 districts are lots that are fronting on, generally on Main Street, and then there's bridges. That's in the
Okay.
C3 district as well.
all right.
And yes, those standards are difficult to comply with, especially if there's varying interpretations of what the intention of the bylaw is, which is what I think the primary challenges was with Cape Cod Coffee and Best Buy Beverage. We can clarify those, for sure.
All right,
Good.
thank you.
Okay, and the last thing under new business is the planning board schedule for 2022, and that is in your package.
Got it.
I just wanted to note, Patty put this together, but unlike previous years, I didn't forget to check for the Jewish holidays in September. You'd think I would remember, but I never do. One of our meetings is a holiday. It's October.
October 5th.
And
It
so,
says holiday.
so we noted that because I wanted to pose it to you. Do you want to not put something on the calendar for that day? Do you want to schedule something alternative? Do you want to say it's no meeting on that date and assess our needs in September of 2022?
No meeting, assess.
So
You don't even have to ask
for
us.
now, I guess the proposed schedule will be that there's no regular meeting scheduled there, and if we need
On
to
the fifth.
schedule one, we'll have to do it sometime in
Some other
September or
time
August of
besides
2022.
Yep, very good.
Well, they all say 20.
Okay,
Do they all say 2022? All right, good.
Go back to Evan.
Back to Evan's
Oh, gosh, Evan.
town planner report.
A lot going on today.
I finished the first one, right?
You did.
I think so.
I just wanted to note to the board that the Attorney General responded to the open meeting law complaints filed against the board, and that the Attorney General declined to review the complaints. The response is in your packet.
Right.
Okay.
Anything in the correspondence?
Yes, I guess actually a couple things. The South Cape Village modification was recorded, and the Cape Cod Commission certified compliance and consistency with the DRI decision, and they are now eligible for building permits. I don't know if any have been filed. Standard notices, Karen Faulkner submitted a letter relative to IA septic systems, and Lynn Barbie submitted correspondence in support of member Wagan with a number of signatures.
116.
And those are in the package?
They're in the package.
And they, I haven't seen any
Thanks,
building permits
everybody.
from over there at South Cape, so.
Yeah, I
Curious what
don't,
they're
I don't know
doing.
what their intention is for construction, but
Yeah.
they're ready to go, should they be prepared to submit for their
I
building.
mean, are they gonna wait till they get a tenant, or you think they're gonna build the building before?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't want to operate an assumption, so I have no idea.
Yeah,
be interesting.
pretty good.
That's it for me.
Anything else?
Dennis?
Nope, I make a motion we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good meeting.
Thank you
Good
very
meeting.
much.
Thank you all.
It was
Thanks,
nice
Ed.